Here are some rare photos that may blow your mind. This is Diane Stopke, winner of International Posture Queen in 1957, posing with her award-winning spine. And here is a selection of prosthetic face parts designed for use by World War I veterans. This is what one of those prosthetics looked like in action. This little contraption is actually the first computer that Apple ever developed. Here is the 8-year-old bodybuilder Patricia O'Keefe, carrying a 200-pound man on her back. This is what a pickup truck from the year 1985 looks like in comparison to the behemoths, which are modern pickup trucks today. This, in all of its glory, is a meeting of the U.S. Board of Tea experts. Did you know that some ladybugs are born without spots? Just in case you were ever curious, this is what a frozen egg looks like without its shell. Did you know that high-voltage lines are, well, really high voltage? They can literally melt concrete if they hit the ground. And this, in all of its glory, is the longest tapeworm ever recovered from a human. This picture, taken back in 1942, shows a New York Times employee creating that day's layout of the sports page. This is the cross-section of the 1,300-year-old Mark Twain sequoia tree, cut down in the year 1892 for display in New York. Just last month, a container ship ran aground and almost crashed into a random house in Norway. Here's another angle of how close it actually came. These aren't precious gems. This is actually what sand looks like under a microscope. Did you know that, before airplanes were pressurized for commercial use, flyers had to wear oxygen masks at higher altitudes? This awe-inspiring site is a potato storage facility. And just for reference, that's a 5-foot shovel. This picture, taken in the early 1900s, shows an early basketball game, knee pads and all. Did you know that tourists in Egypt used to be able to climb on top of the Great Pyramid anytime they wanted? This thing here is a road printer, a machine that quite literally prints roads. And these gigantic, funny-looking contraptions are apparently one of the first life preservers ever made. This is Robert Earl Hughes, the one-time world's heaviest man, and his pet dog. This is a replica of what was apparently the world's largest polar bear, standing tall at 12 feet and weighing over 2,000 pounds. And finally, here's an optical illusion for you. No, this car is not actually floating, unfortunately. These are the very first employees of Coca-Cola, pictured here in Atlanta in the year 1898. This was how huge the cake for Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's wedding was. Did you know that back in 1962, 3 men escaped Alcatraz prison after fooling guards with papier-mâché decoy heads that looked like this? And here is what the entrance exam to MIT looked like in 1869. This is a picture of the first ever Ferris wheel, designed specifically for the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. This picture of a hairless chimpanzee demonstrates just how absolutely jacked chimps really are. This is perhaps the first photo of people drinking beer ever taken, first snapped back in the 1840s. This photo from a Seattle lumberyard in 1919 shows just how high stacks of lumber could go in those days. This is one of the last pictures ever taken of President William McKinley, captured just moments before he was assassinated in 1901. The adorable little guy there is named Charlie, and he's one of the smallest horses to ever live. This is astronaut Dave Scott, popping out of the command module for a brief spacewalk in 1969. And finally, this is what a mobile home looked like in the 1930s. This, everyone, is what a pregnant horse looks like. And here is Niagara Falls, as seen from way, way above. This is Fernand Meissonier, France's last executioner, standing next to one of the guillotines he used on the job. And here's a mask that an executioner would typically wear. Creepy stuff. This is what the bottom of the deepest trench on Earth, the Mariana Trench, looks like. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty was completely covered in scaffolding while being renovated? This comparison of the graphics of Grand Theft Auto 5 and the upcoming Grand Theft Auto 6 has been making the rounds lately. The jump in graphical fidelity is just incredible. In 1731, King Frederick I of Sweden was gifted with a lion that, after its death, he sent to be stuffed and preserved. The only issue was that the people doing the taxidermy had never actually seen a lion. Did you know that this is what a human skeleton looks like next to a gorilla's? This is Steven Spielberg on top of Bruce, the animatronic shark that played Jaws. And here's a look at the full Jaws fake shark rig. Did you know that back in 2001, there was a huge dust storm on Mars that obscured the whole planet from the outside? And finally, this is what a lizard getting a CT scan looks like. This is a thermostat from way back in 1957, right next to a modern one. And here is the one-time world record holder for the heaviest hamburger ever made. Did you know that deep scars don't sweat, so dirt won't stick to them? And this is what a World War II combat helmet looks like compared to a World War I combat helmet. Did you know that in 1924, a game of human chess was played in the Soviet Union? And this is what a golf course green that's recently been struck by lightning looks like. This is boy Samson, the 14-year-old, strongest boy in the world, holding up a grown man on a motorcycle circa 1932. This is what the World Trade Center looked like at the very beginning of its construction. This is Igor Sikorsky, inventor of the world's first practical helicopter, preparing to take off in his contraption. And here he is actually up in the air. This is Norwegian speed skater Oscar Mathiesen, pictured with his many awards and honors throughout the early 1900s. Here's a scientist testing out a hands-free shaving machine that used robotic arms. Did you know that strawberries can grow to be very, very big? This is 17-year-old Bryn Owen and his ludicrous amount of mirrors on his Vespa. This is what Montreal Water Park, home of the world's tallest water slide, looking like while it was under construction in Qatar. This is Henry Behrens, the at one time world's smallest man, doing a little tango with his cat. This is a point of view shot from a person who got stuck in an elevator shaft. This illusion caused this building to appear as though it's missing a couple of floors. And here's a rainstorm pouring down on just one single house in particular. It must have been dirty. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this. It's just super creepy. And here we have a very unique looking dental x-ray, making it look almost as though the person's mouth is filled with fire. This is an isolated, rural road that looks like something out of Dark Souls. Would you drive down it at night? Did you know that within a certain department store in Germany, you can actually surf? And this is what a pregnant guinea pig looks like. Speaking of adorable animals, these are what 5-day-old hedgehogs look like. No, this isn't a grape. It's actually the world's largest single-celled organism. This is the first aerial photo ever taken, captured by James Wallace Black from a hot air balloon high above Boston. This is Louisa Ann Swain, the first American woman to ever vote in a general election. Dear God, deep-sea wolf eels are absolutely terrifying. And finally, would you feel comfortable using this public toilet or not? These are sled dogs that were trained by the U.S. Army to pull a machine gun sled over the top of a hill in New Hampshire. This is musician and instrument builder Fred Limmeyer playing the world's largest banjo in the 1920s. Here is a view of Ruth jump as she aims a bow, in mid-flight after jumping off a diving board. This is a man advertising for new telephone customers in England. He's riding a bike with a sidecar that consists of a colossal telephone. Here's one more vehicle being hoisted onto the top of a mountain of wrecked motor cars circa 1930. Maud Lee and her daughter enjoy 11s at their farmhouse near Bristol with their pet lamb Betty. And here are Royal Air Force air gunner trainees watching the electric track-mounted model aircraft target after firing practice. These are two nuns wearing goggles and holding a water hose. Hollywood cosmetics expert Max Factor takes precise measurements of a young woman's head and face with a contraption that looks like an instrument of torture circa 1933. Stunt flyer Lillian Boyer hangs from the wing of a biplane in midair during an aerobatic performance. And here's a photographer literally risking his life to get the perfect shot. This is a horse-drawn fire engine racing to the scene of a fire in New York City. Helene Alberti prepares to test the theory of cosmic motion with a pair of bat-like wings and a handheld spinning wheel. Muzzled alligators pass the winning posts in an underwater race at Silver Springs, Florida. And finally, we have railwaymen wearing gas masks while sitting in a rail coach in Blackpool, England circa 1938. Did you know that even the statue of Honest Abe at the Lincoln Memorials needs its ears cleaned now and then? During World War II, the USS Trigger got close enough to Japan on patrol to take a picture through its periscope of Mount Fuji. This is Australian javelin thrower Reg Spears, best known for literally mailing himself in a big giant box from London to Australia in the 1960s. And this is the 5 by 3 foot box that he mailed himself in. Here's what the model of the wreck of the Titanic looks like today. This is the crew of the USS Hunchback, taken in Virginia at the end of the Civil War. This is a Corinthian helmet, and the skull that wore it during the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC. Did you know that the terrifying-looking anglerfish are actually quite small? This is a photo of the aftermath of an earthquake in Turkey. Here's what an albino gorilla looks like. His name was Snowflake. This is a photo of a rare phenomenon known as volcanic lightning. Did you know that some trees that are struck by lightning actually burn from the inside? And here's a close-up shot of a tornado. And finally, here's what it looks like if a fire hydrant breaks open in winter. These are the oldest pair of pants ever discovered, dating back to over 3,000 years ago. Did you know that every St. Patrick's Day, Chicago transforms its river into a vibrant shade of green? And here is what a cyclist's legs look like after competing in the Tour de France. Here's daredevil Kenneth Hunter performing mid-flight repairs on his plane in the 1920s. And this is what a beluga whale looks like from below. Did you know that there's a bridge in Amsterdam which is completely 3D printed? Believe it or not, this terrifying image is actually an MRI scan of a baby. No, this picture wasn't caused by a dirty camera lens. Those dark spots are actually thousands upon thousands of birds. And here is a truly haunting, yet beautiful shot of the ocean floor. This is a perfectly timed shot of a firework that failed to launch, but certainly didn't fail to detonate. This person suffers from a genetic condition called Alport syndrome that gradually causes their eyes to lose color. This is a photo of Galileo's middle finger, which has been preserved since 1737 and is on display at the Museo Galileo in Florence, Italy. This is a lion's mane jellyfish, one of the largest jellyfish species that we know of, washed up off the coast of Ireland. And finally, did you know that a furniture store in High Point, North Carolina, has a giant dresser outside of its front entrance? This is the cover of the very first issue of Vogue magazine, published on December 17, 1892. This is what a television set looked like in the 1930s. This is a photo of a New York City set built in the backlot of a studio in Hollywood, California, in the 1920s. This is an image of the Cassius M. Clay Battalion of the Union Army defending the White House and President Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. This is one of the first photos of the Oval Office when it was built in 1909 by President Taft. Here's a photo of Walt Disney at Disneyland before giving his opening day speech on July 17, 1955. And speaking of Walt, this image, shot by Disneyland photographer Renee Bardo, is the last photo taken of him at Disneyland in 1966. Did you know that in the 1980s, Mike Tyson's neck measured 20 inches around? This is the last photograph ever taken of the Titanic. Tragically, the doomed ship would sink just 3 days later. This is a picture of one of the last Tasmanian tigers, an animal that went extinct in 1936. This is George Hackenschmidt, the man credited with inventing the bench press. Did you know that the very first iteration of Ronald McDonald was created by Willard Scott in 1963? This photo, taken by Louis Botten in 1899, is one of the first photos ever taken underwater. This is Stefan Bybrowski, otherwise known as Lionel the Lion-Faced Man. Stefan had a condition known as hypertrichosis that caused hair to grow up to 8 inches long all over his body. This is astronaut Eugene Cernan, standing on the moon way back in 1972. This is the Willamette meteorite, the largest meteorite that's ever been found in the United States. And here is one of two remaining northern white rhinoceros left on the planet. This is what a modern tomato looks like next to a tomato grown with 150-year-old seeds. This tea chest is one of two surviving chests from the Boston Tea Party back in 1773. This is one of only two remaining pirate Jolly Roger flags in existence. And here is the world's longest limo, a vehicle known as the American Dream. By the way, before this video, did you know what a hairless bear looked like? Well, you do now. This is what the FBI's fingerprint files looked like in 1942. And here is what Brian Shaw, who is a four-time winner of the world's strongest man competition, looks like next to a couple of 200-pound bodybuilders. Did you know that the Titanic had a full gym on board, complete with a rowing machine? This picture of a human hand captured in 1895 is the oldest surviving X-ray of the human body. Did you know that there's a road in Japan that connects the Toyama and Nagano prefectures that are surrounded by giant snow walls that reach up to 65 feet high? Arnold Schwarzenegger looks tiny standing next to Wilt Chamberlain and Andre the Giant on the set of Conan the Barbarian. Did you know what a sunrise taking place during a solar eclipse looks like? Fun fact, bald eagle nest can be ridiculously huge. And this is what the interior of a kangaroo pouch looks like. This is what a cow molar looks like compared to a human molar. And just in case you ever wondered, this is what the painting directly across from the Mona Lisa looks like. This is how big the anchor chains of a ship are. Did you know that if you shine a black light on an Illinois driver's license, Abe Lincoln will be wearing a hat? This is the world's largest chocolate bar, weighing in at over 12,000 pounds. And this is what a lion getting a CT scan looks like, while this is a fish receiving one. This is Alfred Langevin, a man renowned for his very useful talent of being able to smoke out of his eyeball. This is what the world's first domestic vacuum cleaner looked like in 1906. This is a hammer-headed bat, an absolutely enormous fruit bat with an average wingspan of over 3 feet. And speaking of gigantic animals, check out the size of this here lobster claw. And finally, this is the Brewster armor suit, one of the first fully functional suits of body armor designed for World War I combat. This is the world's tallest statue, the Statue of Unity in India. I mean, just look how big his toes are. You know what they say, big feet, big socks. And here is what the New York City skyline looked like back in 1931. Did you know that this is how little of a train actually touches the tracks? This is Pauline Musters, the shortest woman ever to live. She was 24 inches tall when she died at the age of 19. One of the biggest fads of the 1950s was phone booth stuffing, where in a bunch of people would, well, stuff themselves into a phone booth. During World War II, babies in England were fitted with baby-sized gas masks that were comically large. This is what a shark's brain looks like compared to a dolphin's brain. This is one of the last pictures taken of President Harry S. Truman shortly before his death in 1972. Did you know that selfies are not a new invention? Here's a woman taking a selfie from the year 1900. And finally, here's what a wind turbine looks like after being directly hit by a tornado.